Hi there, I'm Patch, and you'll be reading with me today. Today we're going to be reading Night Shift by Stephen King. Did you know that Night Shift is actually a series of short stories? Is everybody ready? Great! Now, let's settle down, grab some cocoa, and let's begin. Pocket Journal of Calvin McCann, October 23rd, 1850. He is stronger today. We talked briefly of the apparitions in the cellar, agreed they were neither hallucinations or of an ectoplasmic origin, but real. Does Mr. Boone suspect, as I do, that they have gone? Perhaps. The noises are still, yet all is ominous, yet o'ercast with a dark pall. It seems we wait in the deceptive eye of the storm. Have found a packet of papers in an upstairs bedroom, lying in the bottom drawer of an old roll-top desk. Some correspondence and receipted bills led me to believe the room was Robert Boone's. Yet the most interesting document is a few jottings on the back of an advertisement for a gentleman's beaver hats. At the top is writ, "Blessed are the meek." Below the following apparent nonsense is writ: BKEDSHDRMTHES EAKELMSOREARESHAMDED. I believe 'tis the key of the locked and coded book in the library. The cipher above is certainly a rustic one used in the War for Independence known as the fence rail. When one removes the nulls from the second bit of Scrabble, the following is obtained: BESDRTEKLSEAEHME. Read up and down rather than across. The result is the original quotation from the Beatitudes. Before I dare show this to Mr. Boone, I must be sure of the book's contents. October 24th, 1850. Dear Bones, an amazing occurrence. Cal, always close-mouthed until absolutely sure of himself, a rare and admirable human trait, has found the diary of my grandfather Robert. The document was in a code which Cal himself has broken. He modestly declares that the discovery was an accident, but I suspect that perseverance and hard work had rather more to do with it. At any rate, what a sombre light it sheds upon our mysteries here. The first entry is dated June 1st, 1789. The last October 27th, 1789. 4 days before the cataclysmic disappearance of which Mrs. Cloris spoke. It tells a tale of deepening obsession, nay, of madness, and makes hideously clear the relationship between great Uncle Philip, the town of Jerusalem's lot, and the book which rests in that desecrated church. The town itself, according to Robert Boone, predates Chapelwaite, built in 1782, and Preacher's Corners, known in those days as Preacher's Rest, and founded in 1741. It was founded by a splinter group of the Puritan faith in 1710, a sect headed by a dour religious fanatic named James Boone. What a start that name gave me! That this Boone bore relation to my family can hardly be doubted, I believe. Mrs. Cloris could not have been more right in her superstitious belief that familial bloodline is of crucial importance in this matter. And I recall with terror her answer to my question about Philip and his relationship to Salem's Lot. "Blood relation," said she, "and I fear that it is so." The town became a settled community built around the church where Boone preached, or held court. My grandfather intimates that he also held commerce with any number of ladies from the town, assuring them that this was God's way and will. As a result, the town became an anomaly which could only have existed in those isolated and queer days when belief in witches and the virgin birth existed hand in hand. An interbred, rather degenerate religious village controlled by a half-mad preacher whose twin gospels were in the Bible and degouged sinister demon dwellings. a community in which rites of exorcism were held regularly, a community of incest and the insanity and physical defects which is so often accompany the sin. I suspect and believe that Robert Boone must have also, that one of Boone's bastard offspring must have left, or have been spirited away from, Jerusalem's lot to seek his fortune to the south, and thus founded our present lineage. I do now, by my own family reckoning, that our own clan supposedly originated in that part of Massachusetts which has been so lately become this sovereign state of Maine. My great-grandfather, Kenneth Boone, became a rich man as the result of the then flourishing fur trade. It was his money, increased by time and wise investment, which built this ancestral home long after his death in 1763. His sons, Philip and Robert, built Chapelwhite. Blood calls to blood. Mrs. Cloris said, could it be Kenneth was born of James Boone, fled the madness of his father and his father's town, only to have his sons, all unknowing, build the Boone home not 2 miles from Boone beginnings? If 'tis true, does it not seem that some huge and invisible hand has guided us? According to Robert's diary, James Boone was ancient in 1789, and he must have been, granting him an age of 25 in the year of the town's founding. He would have been 104, a prodigious age. The following is quoted directly from Robert Boone's diary. August 4, 1789. Today, for the first time, I met this man with whom my brother has been so unhealthily taken. I must admit this Boone controls a strange magnetism which upset me greatly. He is a veritable ancient, white-bearded, and dresses in a black cassock which struck me as somehow obscene. More disturbing yet was the fact that he was surrounded by women, as the Sultan would be surrounded by his harem. And he assures me that he is active yet, although at least in an octogenarian. The village itself I had visited only once before, and will not visit again. Its streets are silent and filled with the fear the old man inspires from his pulpit. I fear also that like has mated with like, as so many of the faces are similar. It seemed that each way I turned I beheld the old man's visage. All are so wan. They seem lackluster, as if sucked dry of all vitality. I beheld eyeless and noseless children, women who wept and gibbered and pointed at the sky for no reason, and garbled talk from the scriptures with talk of demons. P. wished me to stay for services, but the thought of that sinister ancient in the pulpit before an audience of this town's interbred populace repulsed me, and I made an excuse. The entries preceding and following this tell of Philip's growing fascination with James Boone. On September 1st, 1789, Philip was baptized into Boone's church. His brother says, I am aghast with amaze and horror. My brother has changed before my very eyes. He even seems to grow to resemble the wretched man. First mention of the book occurs on July 23rd. Robert's diary records it only briefly. P. returned from the smaller village tonight with, I thought, a rather wild visage. Would not speak until bedtime, when he said that Boone had inquired after a book titled Mysteries of the Worm. To please P., I promised to write Johns and Goodfellow a letter of inquiry. P. almost fawningly grateful. On August 12th, this notation. Wrecked 2 letters in the post today, one from Johns and Goodfellow in Boston. They have note of the tome in which P. has expressed an interest. Only 5 copies extant in this country. The letter is rather cool, odd indeed. Have known Henry Goodfellow for years. August 13th. P., insanely excited by Goodfellow's letter, refuses to say why. He would only say that Boone is exceedingly anxious to obtain a copy. Cannot think why, since by the title it seems only a harmless gardening tetris. Am worried for Philip. He grows darker and stranger to me daily. I wish now we had not returned to Chapelwhite. The summer is hot, oppressive, and filled with omens. There are only 2 further mentions of this infamous book in Robert's diary. He seems not to have realized the true importance of it, even at the end. from the entry of September 4th. I have petitioned Goodfellow to act as his agent in the matter of the purchase, although my better judgment cries against it. What use to dimmer? Has he not his own money? Should I refuse? And in return I have extracted a promise from Philip to recant this noisome baptism. Yet he is so hectic, nearly feverish, I do not trust him. I am hopelessly at sea in this matter. Finally, September 16th. The book arrived today, with a note from Goodfellow saying he wishes no more of my trade. He was excited to an unnatural degree, all but snatched the book from my hands. It is written in bastard Latin and a runic script of which I read nothing. The thing seemed almost warm to the touch and to vibrate in my hands, as if it contained a huge power. I reminded P of his promise to recant, and he only laughed in an ugly, crazed fashion and waved that book in my face, crying over and over again, "We have it! We have it! The worm! The secret of the worm!" He is now fled, I suppose to his mad benefactor, and I have not seen him more this day. Of the book there is no more, but I have made certain deductions of which seem at least probable. First, that the book was, as Mrs. Cloris had said, the subject of this falling out between Robert and Philip. Second, that it is a repository of unholy incantation, possibly of Druidic origin. Many of the Druidic blood rituals were preserved in print by the Roman conquerors of Britain in the name of scholarship, and many of these infernal cookbooks are among the world's forbidden literature. Third, that Boone and Philip intended to use the book for their own ends. Perhaps in some twisted way they intended good, but I do not believe it. I believe they had long before bound themselves over to whatever faceless powers exist beyond the rim of the universe, powers which may exist beyond the very fabric of time. The last entries of Robert Boone's diary lend a dim glow of approbation to these speculations, and I allow them to speak for themselves. October 26, 1789. A terrific babble in preachers' corners today. Frawley, the blacksmith, seized my arm and demanded to know what your brother and that mad Antichrist are up into in there. Goody Randall claims there have been signs in the sky of great impending disaster. A cow has been born with 2 heads. As for myself, I know not what impends. Perhaps 'tis my brother's insanity. His hair has gone grey almost overnight. His eyes are great bloodshot circles from which the pleasing light of sanity seems to have departed. He grins and whispers, and for some reason of his own, has begun to haunt our cellar when not in Jerusalem's lot. The whippoorwills congregate about the house and upon the grass. Their combined calling from the mist blends with the sea into an unearthly shriek that precludes all thought of sleep. October 27th, 1789. Followed P this evening when he departed for Jerusalem's lot, keeping a safe distance to avoid discovery. The cursed whippoorwills flock throughout the woods, filling all with a deathly psychopromptic chant. I dare not cross the bridge. The town all dark, except for the church, which was litten with a ghastly red glare that seemed to transform the high, peaked windows into the eyes of the inferno. Voices rose and fell in a devil's litany, sometimes laughing, sometimes sobbing. The very ground seemed to swell and groan beneath me, as if it bore an awful weight. And I fled, amazed, full of terror and hellish screaming cries of the whippoorwills, dinning in my ears as I ran through those shadow-riven woods. All tends to the climax yet unforeseen. I dare not sleep for the dreams that come, yet not remain awake for what lunatic terrors may come. The night is full of awful sounds, and I fear. And yet I feel the urge to go again, to watch, to see. It seems that Philip himself calls me, and the old man. The birds, cursed, cursed, cursed. Here the diary of Robert Boone ends. Yet you must notice, Bones, near the conclusion, that he claims Philip himself seemed to call him. My final conclusion is formed by these lines, by the talk of Mrs. Cloris and the others, but most of all by those terrifying figures in the cellar, dead yet alive. Our line is yet an unfortunate one, Bones. There is a curse over us which refuses to be buried. It lives a hideous shadow in this house and that town, and the culmination of the cycle is drawing close again. I am the last of the Boone blood. I fear that something knows this, and that I am at the nexus of an evil endeavor beyond all sane understanding. The anniversary of All Saints' Eve, week from today. How shall I proceed? If only you were here to counsel me, to help me. If only you were here. I must know all. I must return to the shunned town. May God support me. Charles.